Welcome to today's episode of the BOWTIEGUY podcast. On today's episode, we want to take a look at my favorite godfather of educational research, Dr. Robert J. Marzano. You know what? He's the co-founder and chief academic officer of Marzano Research in Denver, Colorado. Guess what? During his 50 years in the field of education, he has worked with educators as a speaker and trainer and has authored more than 40 books and 300 articles on topics such as instruction, assessment, writing and implementing standards, cognition, effective leadership, and school intervention. Holy hootenanny, I'm out of breath. We're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite books by Dr. Robert J. Marzano, something that is just hot off the press. It's been out just for a few years, but it's entitled The New Art and Science of Teaching by Robert J. Marzano. Now, we're going to look at one specific research-based instructional strategy that can pop and lock and check and wreck your student achievement. What in the blooming of Kentucky am I talking about? Now, we're going to be talking about element 29, utilizing friendly controversy. I'm going to title this episode, Controversy Creates Cash. What am I talking about? Let me tell you something right now. When you're in your classroom, you could utilize controversy, or friendly controversy that is, to enhance, to engage, to connect with your students, therefore pushing forth the agenda towards academic achievement. Now, here's what you need to understand. The strategies within this element, the utilizing friendly controversy, you know what? It stimulates intrigue and interest in students. This is a natural byproduct of controversy. Hey, controversy creates cash, right? When we are disagreeing with someone, we are usually highly engaged. Wouldn't you agree? However, controversy can become so emotionally charged that the participants can become combative and you're just losing focus. When this occurs, controversy adds little or nothing useful to an individual's knowledge base. When individuals conduct controversy in a civil manner, it can enhance the subject matter knowledge and the self-knowledge of all concerned, hence the term, quote-unquote, friendly controversy. All right, so we're going to talk about several of the strategies underneath the umbrella of friendly controversy. First and foremost, you have friendly controversy. Now, this is where a student explains and defends their positions against a teacher. I'll never forget in high school, is my junior year. I have to have an entire different episode about my hiatus, my siesta, where I actually traveled to Adrian, Missouri for a short time. And I actually played a football season, and then I had to do the dip and head back home. Long story, but what I'll say is that, you know, I had a history teacher. His name was Heath Oates. He is now a superintendent of a district in Missouri. So, needless to say, this dude had it going on like Donkey Kong before he became a superintendent. First and foremost, in the history class, I just remember he was trying to introduce a concept of geography, and I'm not even sure where. All I know is I remember specifically that lesson. Why? Because he started out the class and he told everyone. This is kind of funny because it was before the whole flat Earth, debate controversy. I think it's kind of stupid, but anyways, Coach Oates, he was also my football coach. He just informed the class that the Earth is flat, and he would love to hear anyone in the class try to prove him wrong. And this is like a bell ringer. This was like something he opened the class with. And, and me, I was trying to categorize, synthesize. I was trying to come up with some scientific calculation to prove him wrong. And he just had like a defense for everything I was saying. And I just thought it was hysterical just because, first and foremost, he didn't give up. You see what I'm saying? He didn't crack a smile. You could tell that he was trying to get something out of us, but he didn't give us too much. He didn't crack a smile. He didn't lose focus. Sure enough, he went through the entire class defending the fact that the Earth is flat. We all know that it's not flat. I hope we know. But I just remember that controversy, just him going back and forth with his students, not only was engaging, hey, look, we're talking like 15 years later, I'm still remembering that particular lesson. So shout out to Coach Oates, Superintendent Oates. That was awesome. And I remember that so many years later. Now, how many times have you had a class vote? Now, I'm not talking about who wants cupcakes, who wants hot. No, I'm talking about something serious. The teacher, you can have students vote on a particular issue. Before and after the vote, students discuss the merits of various positions. The teacher might ask students to vote again after the final discussion. I love utilizing the class vote, especially during the shared inquiry part of Junior Great Books. Junior Great Books is it's a unit of study, it's a curriculum, if you will, that fits very well in the palm of the hand of what we know as Common Core, or just the collective standards that many of the states have adopted. Some inevitably stopped adopting and came up with their own set of standards. But the fact of the matter is, Common Core, and not to get too far off topic, Common Core fits really well in the palm of the hand of Junior Great Books. Shared inquiry was something that you could really elicit a lot of debate, especially out of your students that couldn't really write that well and were not extremely talented readers, but once they were given the opportunity to have a mic in their hand, they have a voice, they were very good at drawing conclusions, making inferences, and a lot of these skills that some of my gifted students tended to struggle with. So it was a nice little platform for my struggling learners to have a taste of success. Now, what about expert opinions? I'll never forget the time that I actually had Dr. Max White. He was my anthropology professor in college. It's one of the first and last classes that I had during my undergraduate coursework at Piedmont College. One of my first classes was, I think, Anthropology 101. And then the last class I ever took at Piedmont College was Anthropology 102 or something like that. It was the sequel to that. But let me just tell you, he was well endowed with age, but here's the thing though, he was legit as it gets. And the reason why, because he's an anthropologist. He's went all over the earth studying people, why, the how, the where, the when. And so he's just a walking, talking Encyclopedia Britannica of knowledge. But I remember when we were in fourth grade, when I was teaching fourth grade, this is about 3 years ago, I volleyed an invitation to him because I wasn't exactly sure the compatibility between a college professor, especially one that's well endowed with age, and my 9 and 10-year-old students, because I was worried about a disconnect. Sure enough, that dude came in and he just dropped mics left and right. Why? Because he brought in artifacts, and he I was just shocked, and and I gave him a hug after we said our goodbyes and everything. And I was like, man, you blew my mind, and still as an adult, as a teacher, you can still learn from those who are well endowed with experience, well endowed with age, well endowed with years committed towards the profession. And he knew what he was doing. Even though that I don't even think that he's ever had a situation where he was teaching for a salary that age demographic, but sure enough, he hit a grand slam on that. The expert opinion, though, I love the fact that I refuse to call the indigenous people of the United States Indians. It's offensive, okay, and it's just a thing of mine that I've just carried for years. Well, anyways, he straight up mic dropped me in front of everyone. He was just like, James, they're American Indians. There's been substantial studies and investigations and surveys, and the people of whom you call Native Americans, they actually prefer the name American Indians. And I was like, so, regardless of how you feel about that, I was just like, wow, that's pretty interesting. So, the expert opinion, he sliced and diced what I thought was socially appropriate, politically correct, and it was just fantastic. One book that I love to speaking about friendly controversy. When teaching Thomas Jefferson, he's a controversial figure. First and foremost, Lane Smith has an awesome book called John, Paul, George, and Ben. And what you don't know is that Tom is represented in the book as well. Tom's portrayed as this stick to himself. I'd say he's a genius, just a kaleidoscope of talent. But anyways, he's bold and brave, and he's kind of given a positive reflection. Best of Friends is a book that is written by Suzanne Tripp Germain, and it's Worst of Friends, and it's about the friendships, the frenemies that were Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, the second and third president of the United States. Well, they were very combative, but it didn't necessarily give him a negative light in that book either. Well, age-appropriate book by one of my favorite authors, Jonah Winter. And then Terry Widener actually wrote this book with Jonah Winter. The book is called My Name is James Madison Hemmings, which this book checked and wrecked my class because Thomas Jefferson, and it's widely known now, it's actually confirmed as fact. Though he was a widower when he became president, he had younger daughters that kind of assumed the roles as First Lady. But he actually had a girlfriend, I guess you'd say. It was actually a subordinate of it, a slave. And he actually had a family with Sally Hemings. But the name of the book is called My Name is James Madison Hemmings, which completely checked and wrecked the kids. I mean, but it's innocent, it's developmentally appropriate, but it pretty much it's first person account. My name is James Madison Hemmings. He is the son of Thomas Jefferson. And he talks about the peculiarities of living on the plantation, of watching Thomas teach his daughters and his grandchildren the violin, but yet he's, stuck to the field. And it is powerful, but I remember at the very end of the book where, you have the mother of all mic drops, where it reveals the fact that Thomas Jefferson is his father. I swear to you, it's like a Hoover vacuum. You like sucking the breath out of the class. Can I tell you something right now? You're utilizing friendly controversy when that happens. Why? Because look, the book was it's an AR book, level 4.2, developmentally appropriate. The text complexity is appropriate. And you know what? It's a mother of all mic drops. And so it gets the kids thinking, but it's not too explicit, not too meandering where it's not appropriate. And so I love using that book to teach, to reach, to preach, that there's different dimensions to every historian, and we can't judge a person and not trying to justify what happened at that time, but it was just peculiar, and it just gets the kids thinking and asking questions, and perhaps maybe some questions are just better left unanswered, but it's interesting to try to employ strategies such as Element 29, the utilizing the friendly controversy to enhance that student achievement, to enhance that connection, to enhance that enjoyment of learning. Just like with Coach Oates. I remember 15 years later what he did, that flat earth debate where he didn't even crack a smile. He just straight up, that's the way it was, and we were trying to prove him wrong. Okay? So that's it for today. I want to thank you so much for listening to the Bowtie Guy podcast. I want to challenge you. You know what? Controversy creates cash. Email me at hortonedu, HORTONEDU@gmail.com. Shoot me some strategies, research-based strategies that you want me to discuss in a future episode. And if you want to talk about how you're utilizing friendly controversy to enhance student achievement, holler at me as well. You can visit my website at www.bowtieguyandwife.com. You can hit me up at Instagram, HortonEDU, and also Bowtie Guy and Wife. And you can also hit me up on Twitter, Bowtie Guy and Wife. And if you need some videos, some content videos, head on over to my YouTube channel where, you know what, there's some bright lightning, exciting videos that you can check and wreck your students with. This is the Bowtie Guy, James Horton. I want to thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.